Well, it's time for business news now with Kate Moody. She's here with us with some pretty depressing news, I have to say, Kate. You're starting by telling us, yes, remember the summer holidays are all but over. The French government is going back to work and economy will be top of their agenda.
Exactly, and I think François Hollande is going to be even more depressed than you and I, Eve. A raft of bad economic data is awaiting the president and his ministers when they meet on Wednesday. Last week, we found out the French economy had ground to a halt in the second quarter, and the government admitted it's come nowhere near its target to bringing the budget deficit down to below 3% of GDP. Still, despite increasing pressure to change course, the socialist government says it is pressing ahead with its plan to boost growth, as Charlotte Hawkins explains.
Last Friday, just off the Mediterranean coast, the French president and prime minister sat down together to prepare for France's return to work after the summer holidays. It's going to be tough, especially since a recent survey found that over 80% of the French public don't trust the government to restore growth or combat unemployment.
They promised us certain things to rehabilitate the country, but we're just sinking further and further. The figures are falling. We can't trust in anything anymore.
All the figures are in the red. Zero growth in the second quarter has pushed France to halve its forecast for 2014. Unemployment has reached record levels, and the budget deficit is set to exceed 4% of GDP instead of the 3.8% forecast. A grim situation, but the Prime Minister doesn't want to change track.
We have one objective: job growth. Growth through investment. Then we must also fulfill our responsibilities. Hence the savings we have committed to over the next 3 years.
Nevertheless, President Hollande is preparing yet more measures to try and boost growth. Among them, a likely tax reform to help the poorest households as well as the middle class. France will also plead with the European Union at the end of the month for a new deadline for bringing its deficit below 3%.
Turning our attention to the markets now, we've seen modest mixed trading in Asia as we begin the week. The Shanghai Composite shrugging off news that new home prices in China fell for a third straight month in July, down an average 0.9% across the country. We've also got new data showing that the Thai economy has avoided recession, growing at a rate of 0.9% in the second quarter despite months of political turmoil. The markets have just opened here in Europe, trading in the green as we get going. Investors cheered by what seems to be a bit of progress in Ukraine crisis talks. Those geopolitical tensions have been dragging down the markets in recent weeks, Eve.
Okay, now, Kate, give us a roundup of the other business news. Notably, I believe there's a massive trade pact that is once again on track.
That's what we hope anyway. India's Commerce Minister saying the country will honour a massive global trade pact, despite having vetoed it at the World Trade Organization. Last month, India refused to sign on to the $1 trillion agreement to ease trade restrictions. It demanded concessions on allowing food subsidies to the poor. But officials now say negotiations with the WTO have not hit a dead end and may well continue. Former U.S. Vice President Al Gore is suing Al Jazeera America. He's accused the Qatar-based network of fraud and breach of contract in its $500 million purchase of Current TV, a cable channel that he founded and then sold. Al Jazeera relaunched the channel last year as its news arm focusing on the U.S., but Gore says it's refusing to pay tens of millions of dollars still owed to shareholders. And Credit Suisse has been caught up in the collapse of Portugal's Espírito Santo banking group. The Wall Street Journal reports the Swiss group helped to sell billions of dollars worth of securities to Espírito Santo's retail customers. The bank was bailed out and broken up earlier this month.
And Kate, I believe a new film isn't doing very well at the box office. It's paying the price for being pirated earlier this year.
That's right. This is the film called Expendables 3. It opened this weekend in the US and took in just $16 million. That's a fraction of the $90 million it cost to make, and about half of what the second installment of that franchise made back in 2012. Now, it could just be that people are no longer interested in the franchise, which stars action heavyweights Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Harrison Ford. But the producers are pointing the finger at hackers who stole a nearly complete version of the movie back in July. It had been downloaded at least 5 million times before it debuted this Friday, so that likely had some kind of impact on the box office takings. And that sort of leaking, obviously, of increasing concern for film studios as streaming and downloading of films and TV shows becomes more and more widespread.
Okay, let's not say if we do or don't download anything, but I have to say I've never seen one of the Expendables. Have you, Kate?
I haven't, I have to say, but this one in particular doesn't seem to have done very well. Who knows if it's the third one's
exactly.
often hard.
Okay, Kate Moody there, the Business Roundup. Thank you indeed for that. Well, with us now, also in studios, Nicholas Rushworth. He's here to look at some of the